The cold metal of the hairpin pressed against my throat was the first thing I felt. Then the pain.
Sarpe precise. Just below my jaw.
I remembered the mud, cold and suffocating, filling my mouth. I remembered Liyu's face, twisted into a mask of cold triumph as she held me down. And I remembered my sister's voice, drifting through the rain, telling Liyu to finish it quickly. I gasped and sat up in bed, my hand flying to my throat. The skin was smooth. UNMA Rked. I read at the cerulean silk canopy above me. My bed.
My room.
The one I hadn't slept in for 3 years. Mistress, you're awake. That voice.
Soft. Familia R.
I turned my head slowly. Liyu stood by the bedside, a basin of water in her hands. She was younger. The thin lines of worry that had etched themselves around her mouth were gone. Her shoulders were straight, not hunched from the beatings she had endured in my sister's household. The picture of loyal servitude that I remembered, that face hovering above me while I drowned. I remembered her whispering, "Don't worry, mistress. Second miss will take good care of your things. Rooting with your smile." I forced my body to obey. I couldn't scream. I couldn't claw her eyes out. "Not yet, the wine was potent," I said. My voice came out hoa rse. "What time is it?" "Almost the hour of the monkey," Liyu replied. Her eyes flicked with impatience. She was eager to get on with it. "We must begin your preparations soon, mistress. The ceremony for second Mrs. engagement is at dusk."
Ceremony.
My sister's engagement to the crown prince. The engagement that should have been mine. The celebration where I had been poisoned the first time, dragged to the Reborn, and drowned in a puddle of mud while my sister's maid held me down. I forced a smile. "Help me dress." Liyu rushed to the wardrobe, pulling out the same dusty rose gown she had forced me into last time. A slight intended to make me look dull and sickly. "No," I said. "The azure silk. The one with the silver thread embroidery."
Liyu afroza.
She turned, surprise flickering across her face. "Mistress, that is one of your finest gowns. Are too grand for a simple family ceremony. You wouldn't want to outshine second miss on her special day." I rose from the bed. The floor was cold against my bare feet. "The azure silk, Liyu. I have worn dusty rose for the last 3 years. Today my sister is being honored. I will not shame the Lin family name by ring shabby." Her eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second before the placid mask slid back into place. She pulled the sapphire blue silk from the wardrobe. I watched her fingers twitch. She was already calculating how to spin this to Lady Fong, how to cast me as the bitter, jealous elder sister trying to steal attention, as she helped me into the gown. The silk was cool and smooth against my skin. It was the dress I had worn the night of my betrothal ball to General Wei, years ago. The night Lady Fong and Lin Qian had so effectively sabotaged. The night my father had called me a disgrace. As Liyu laced the ribbons at my back, I caught a glimpse of myself in the polished bronze mirror. A stranger read back. The face was younger, but the eyes were hollow and burning. My hair was dressed elegantly, all to my instruction, and Liyu selected a jade hairpin, the mate to the butterfly pin she had used to kill me. "Mistress is looking radiant," she murmured. "Truly the jewel of the Lin family." I watched her in the mirror, seeing the flatness in her gaze. She was doing her job, playing her parti, and I was going to let her. "Thank you, Liyu," I said softly, "for everything." Her smile was too wide. "It is my duty, mistress." A soft knock came at the door. A young maid, Shuair, poked her head in. "Mistress, the household is gathering in the main hall. His lordship and the lady have just arrived from the ancestral temple." I rose. The azure gown swished around me like a whisper. I was ready, but the walk to the main hall felt surreal. Every stone, every red pillar, every blooming chrysanthemum was exactly as I remembered. Servants rushed past, preparing for the evening's festivities. I passed 2 laundresses, their heads together, whispering, "Did you hear the crown prince himself is coming? And to think it's for the second Mississippi. Who would have believed it, me? I would have believed it. I had believed it the first time, when I had choked down the wine and slipped away. But not today did I reach the entrance to the main hall. The heavy oak doors were wide open. I could see them all inside. My father, Lin Hai, stood at the head of the room, his face a ruefully composed mask of dignity. Beside him, with her hand resting possessively on his arm, was my stepmother, Lady Fong. Her face was wreathed in a triumphant smile as she doted on the figure standing before them. Lin Qian, my sister. She was dressed in rose gold, the color of a sunset. Her hair was a cascade of jewels. She was beautiful, with her head tilted and a charming smile playing on her lips. The picture of a girl on the cusp of a dream come true. The dream she had stolen from me. The dream she had killed me to keep. The crowd parut slightly as I stepped through the doorway. The air in the hall, thick with incense and the scent of expensive perfume, seemed to still. All eyes turned to me. My father's eyes widened as he took in my azure gown. Lady Fong's smile faltered for a split second, her gaze snapping to me with sharpness. Lin Qian's face was the most telling. For a fleeting moment, I saw the cold, calculating hatred that was her true nature. Then she smiled, bright and brittle as porcelain. Elder sister, you look wonderful. I was rooting to worry you had been taken ill. She glided over to me and took my hand. Her fingers were her grip firm. She leaned in as if to kiss my cheek, her voice dropping to a whisper. The dusty rose didn't suit you anyway. It was always meant for the dead. A cold wave washed over me, but I did not pull away. I forced the blood to keep flowing to my face. You look beautiful, Qianer. Truly, the finest jewel in the Crown Prince's collection. Her eyes flickered with confusion at my calmness. She had expected despair. She was looking for it. Where's the Crown Prince? I asked, turning to my father. Isn't he to arrive soon? The ceremony is nearly upon us. My father, Clea, read his throat. He has sent word. He will be delayed due to matters in the court, but he has sent a representative to deliver the betrothal gifts on his behalf. The same as before. His absence was a subtle, public snub. A way for the Crown Prince to show he was marrying Lin Qian for political gain, not for love. It was a slight that had humiliated my sister, and she had taken out her rage on me. Is that so? I let concern creep into my tone. I hope the matter is not too serious. It would be a pity for him to miss such an auspicious occasion. Lady Fong stepped forward. Her voice was honey-laced with arsenic. My dear, I am sure he will be here soon enough. It's a matter of state. You wouldn't understand, of course. I turned to my stepmother. The woman who had fed me my mother's ashes in my soup. The woman who had schemed for a decade to make her daughter the heir to the Lin family's future. Of course, mother, I said smoothly. I am but a simple daughter. My concerns as small as my understanding. Lady Fong's eyes glinted. Don't be so hard on yourself, Dar. You've always been so quiet. One might forget you're even here. My father chuckled. Now, Fonger, don't tease the girl. She looks lovely tonight. It was the one thing I knew about my father. He wanted peace above all else. He didn't want to see the war between his wife and his daughter. He wanted to believe everything was perfect, and I would let him. I walked away from the gathering, my hands clasped in front of me, my eyes downcast. I could feel Lin Qian's burning into my back. I heard her whisper to her mother, her voice sharp with anger. Why is she ring that the ceremony is for me? Peace, child, Lady Fong murmured. It is all for naught. She'll be gone by nightfall. They were so confident. I wandered toward the back of the hall, where the broad latticed windows overlooked the inner gardens. The very garden where I would be led to my death. The moment I was out of my father's line of sight, I ducked into a small shadowed alcove, where servants couldn't see me. My heart pounded. I was alive. I was here. And I was not going to die again. A figure root out of the shadows, bumping into me. It was Shuair, the young maid. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. Mistress, she hissed, grabbing my sleeve. Please forgive my impertinence, but I must speak with you. What is it, Shuair? I kept my voice low as she looked around frantically before leaning in close. I was in the kitchens fetching tea for the ladies' guests, and I heard the head CEO talking to Liu. They were preparing a special cup of wine for you. A cup just for you, to be served by Liu herself. My blood ran cold. The poison, Shuair, listen to me carefully, I said. I need you to do exactly as I say. And you must tell no one. Do you trust me? The girl's eyes route to the hall where the celebration was beginning. I trust you, mistress. You've always been kind to me. The other servants say things. I know, I said softly. Now listen. When the ceremony begins and the wine is poured, I need you to be Nea, me. I need you to do me a favor.
Shuair nodded, her lip trembling.
I leaned in and whispered my plan into her ear. Her eyes widened in horror. Mistress, I can't. It would be treason. It is my only chance, I whispered. If you do not do this, I will be dead by the end of the evening. You know it as well as I do. Tears streamed down Shuair's face. I will do it, mistress. I swear it on my mother's grave. A commotion from the main hall pulled our attention. The Crown Prince's representative had arrived. It was time that I stepped out of the alcove, smoothing down my azure silk. My heart was a frantic drum in my chest, but my hands were steady. I walked back into the hall just as Lin Qian was being presented with the betrothal gifts. It was a lavish display. Chests of silk, boxes of gold and jade, and at the very front, a magnificent pair of jadeite dragon and phoenix hairpins. Symbols of their future union. The representative, a eunuch from the imperial household, made a grand speech about the Crown Prince's favor. I watched with detached clarity. My sister was being given my future, and soon she was going to try and take my life to keep it that the speeches were made. The gifts were accepted. It was time to share the celebratory wine. I saw Liu approaching with a tray. On it were 2 cups. One, a simple unadorned ceramic cup. The other, a beautiful celadon cup, painted with cranes. The ceramic cup was for Maid. I saw Lady Fang's eyes flick to the tray, a look of cold satisfaction on her face. I saw my father watching his wife and his favored daughter, a happy smile on his face. He had no idea he was about to lose his eldest daughter. Liu approached me first, her movements humble, her smile beneficent. Mistress, a cup of wine to toast your sister's happiness. My fingers trembled as I took the ceramic cup. The col surface of the clay felt rough and common. The other cup, the celadon one, was placed in front of Lin Qian, who was smiling a smile that would have been perfect for a painting. To the future crown princess, I said, raising my cup. As I spoke, I saw Shuair rt 4-way road. She was pretending to adjust the brazier, her hands moving swiftly. She was terrified, but she was following my orders. Lin Qian raised her celadon cup to her lips. A toast was made by my father to the crown prince's health. As the hall erupted in applause, I watched my sister's wine cup with bated breath. Shuair stumbled, just as we had practiced, bumping into the servant holding the tray of food. The girl cried out in Allah Aram, dropping a plate of pastries. The commotion was just enough to break the rhythm. In the confusion, I saw my chance. I moved my hand, feigning a shudder of emotion, and the ceramic cup slipped. It was a clean, deliberate drop. The wine splashed across the polished wooden floor, seeping into the grain. There were gasps of surprise. My father frowned. Lady Fang's face paled as she read at the puddle of wine spreading across the floor. Oh, I cried, feigning embarrassment. Forgive me. The joy of the occasion has made me clumsy. I have wasted the good wine. My father waved a hand. It is nothing, a mere accident. Bring the child another cup. But Liu was frozen, her face ashen. The special wine, the wine meant for me, was gone before anyone could react. I turned to Lin Qian's cup. The celadon one. The one she had been holding. I smiled. Sister, shari my joy. Drink the rest of my toast to your happiness. I reached out and took the cup from her fingers. She was too stunned to resist. The crowd was watching. There was no way she could refuse the public gesture of goodwill from her elder sister. I raised the celadone cup to my lips, my eyes locked on hers. But the wine was untouched. Instead of drinking, I leaned in, my voice a whisper meant only for her ears. The cup of cranes is for me tonight, sister.
Do you know how bitter it tastes?
Her eyes widened in pure, raw terror. I tipped the cup, letting its contents soak into the collar of my dress. The smell of the poison wine was strong on my clothes. I stepped back, a triumphant smile on my face. I had turned the tables, all the color drained from Lin Qian's face. She had just realized that her poison was no longer in my belly, but staining my dress. She had missed. The hall was still buzzing with conversation, oblivious to the silent war being waged between the two daughters of the Lin household. My father was laughing at something Lady Fong had whispered. The eunuch from the palace was being escorted to a seat of honor. Everyone was so busy celebrating my sister's engagement that no one noticed the bloodless pallor of her face or the vicious triumph in my eyes.
Ibachaliwa.
She stood frozen beside the empty tray, her eyes derooting between the puddle of wine on the floor and the stains spreading across my bodice. She was calculating. She was trying to figure out what had just happened. Her gaze landed on Shu'er, who was trembling at the edge of the crowd. Li Yu's eyes narrowed as I moved before she could speak. I swept across the floor, my azure gown trailing behind me, and placed my hand on my father's arm. Father, the wine has made me unwell. I think I need some fresh air. My father looked at me, concern flickering across his face. You do look pale. Li Yu, accompany your mistress to the Reborn. See that she rests. Li Yu's face tightened, but she bowed. Yes, my lord.
Perfect.
This was exactly what had happened last time. I had gone to the Reborn, Li Yu had followed, and I had died. But this time, I knew it was coming. That I walked slowly toward the Reborn doors, my steps measured. I could hear Li Yu's footsteps behind me, steady and unhurried. She was confident. She thought she was leading me to my grave. The Reborn was bathed in the soft glow of lanterns. The chrysanthemums were in full bloom, their petals catching the light. I walked past the pavilion, past the koi pond, toward the shallow ditch at the far end. The ditch where I had drowned. I stopped at the edge of the ditch and turned to face Li Yu. She was standing a few paces behind me, her head bowed, her hands clasped in front of her. The picture of humility. Mistress, you should sit down. I can fetch you some water. I don't want water, Li Yu. She looked up, her eyes sea urching my face. Then what do you want, mistress? I smiled. It was a cold, hot smile. I want to know why. She blinked. Why what, mistress? Why you did it? Why you helped my sister kill me? The silence stretched between us. Li Yu's face remained impassive, but I saw her fingers twitch at her sides. She was reaching for something hidden in her sleeve. I don't understand what you're saying, mistress. You must be ill. The wine has affected your mind. I laughed. Aha, RSH. Bitter sound. Don't play innocent with me, Li Yu. I remember everything. The wine. Your hands on my shoulders. The mud filling my mouth. I remember you whispering in my ear while I died. Her mask slipped. Just for a moment. I saw the cold calculation behind her eyes. Then she smiled. A slow, creeping smile that made my blood run cold. You remember, she said softly. How very inconvenient. She moved fast. Faster than I expected. Her hand came out of her sleeve, and I saw the glint of metal. The jadeite butterfly hairpin. The same one she had used before, but I was ready that I had spent RS in that muddy ditch. RS watching the rain fall, and the RS will overhead while my body rotted. I had had time to think. Time to plan. Time to remember every detail of my death. I sidestepped as she lunged. The hairpin sliced through the air, missing my throat by inches. I grabbed her wrist and twisted. She cried out in pain, the hairpin clattering to the ground. You think I would make the same mistake twice, I hissed. I shoved her back way road. She stumbled, her feet slipping on the damp grass. I should have drowned you myself, she spat, her face contorted with rage. Second miss was too soft. She wanted it to be quick. I told her we should make you suffer. I felt the rage building in my chest. the cold fury that had been simmering since I opened my eyes in that bed. I picked up the hairpin from the ground. The metal was steel and heavy in my hand. Tell me why? I said again. You laughed. Why? Because you were weak. Because second miss has always been the better choice. Your father doesn't love you. Lady Fong despises you. You were a stain on the Lin family name. I was simply cleaning house. I felt the words like physical blows. I had always known. In my heart, I had always known that my father preferred Lin Qian. That Lady Fong had engineered my downfall from the moment she stepped through the door. But to hear it spoken aloud, so casually, so cruelly, was like being stabbed all over again. I stepped closer, the hairpin still in my hand. You cleaned house, you held me down while I drowned in a ditch. You watched me die, and felt nothing. She sneered. I felt satisfaction. I was promised a position in second Mrs. household once you were gone. I would have been head of her servants. I would have had power and status. All I had to do was rid the world of a useless, forgotten daughter. I stopped. The red haze of rage clear red for my vision. I looked at Liu, really looked at her. She was terrified. I could see it in the way her eyes root around the Reborn, looking for an escape. But she was still trying to bait me, still trying to find a way to gain the upper hand. You're right, I said quietly. I was useless. I was forgotten. I stood in the shadows and watched while my sister took everything that was mine. I did nothing. I said nothing. I held out the hairpin, offering it back to her. Take it. Her eyes widened. She read at the hairpin, then at my face, then back at the hairpin. She didn't move. I said take it. I repeated. This is what you want, isn't it? You want to finish what you root. She reached out, her fingers trembling. I watched her close her hand around the hairpin. I saw the spark of hope in her eyes, the belief that she had won. Then I smiled. But you won't use it on me. I turned and walked toward the main hall. I heard her voice behind me, confused and angry. Where are you going? You can't just walk away. I'll tell them everything. I'll tell them you tried to kill me. I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. Tell them what? Liu, tell them you poisoned my wine. Tell them you came into the den with a hairpin to finish the job. I wonder which one of us they'll believe. The color drained from her face. She knew I was right. I was the eldest daughter of the Lin household. She was a servant. Even a dismissed, forgotten daughter was worth more than a servant's word. You are mine now, Liu, I said softly. From this moment on, you belong to me. You will do as I say, when I say it. And if you ever try to cross me again, I will make sure you regret it. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the den with the hairpin clutched in her trembling hand. I walked back into the hall just as the celebration was reaching its peak. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed off the walls. Lin Qian was surrounded by admirers, her face flushed with joy. I made my way to my father's side. He was deep in conversation with Lady Fong, discussing the logistics of the upcoming wedding. He looked up as I approached, a smile on his face. Feeling better, my day? I smiled. Much better, father. The Reborn air was just what I needed. Good. Come, join us. We were just discussing the wedding. Qian'er will be moving to the Crown Prince's residence in 2 months. There is much to prepare. I listened as he talked, nodding at appropriate intervals. My eyes drifted across the room to where Liu was standing against the wall. She was pale, her eyes fixed on me. I smiled at her, a small, private smile. She flinched as I turned back to my father. Father, I was wondering. Since Qian'er will be leaving soon, perhaps I could take over some of her household duties. I want to be useful. I want to help prepare for the wedding. Lady Fong's face tightened. There is no need, my dear. Qian'er and I have everything under control. Oh, I'm sure you do, I said sweetly. But I would hate for you to be overwhelmed. And it would be such a good opportunity for me to RN. After all, I will be ma ride one day too. I should know how to manage a household. My father's eyes lit up. That's a wonderful idea, Xiaoer. Fonger, let her help. It will be good for her. Lady Fong's jaw tightened, but she smiled. Of course. If Showa wants to help, she is more than welcome. I saw the fury in her eyes. She knew what I was doing. I was inserting myself into the wedding preparations. I was making myself visible. I was forcing her to acknowledge me. The evening wore on. Lin Qian danced with the son of a prominent minister. My father drank and laughed. Lady Fong circulated among the guests, playing the gracious hostess. And I watched. I watched everything. I watched Liu, who could not meet my eyes. I watched Lady Fong, who was already plotting her next move. I watched Lin Qian, who was still oblivious to the fact that her perfect evening had been ruined. When the moon was high and the guests began to trickle out, I made my way to the door. Lin Qian caught me in the hallway. "Shower," she called out, her voice sweet and sharp. A moment. I turned to face her. She was still in her rose-gold gown, her jewels sparkling in the torchlight. She looked beautiful. She looked poisonous. "What happened in the Reborn?" she asked. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. Liu came back looking like she had seen a ghost. I smiled. "I don't know what you mean, Qianer. I went to the Reborn for some fresh air."
Liu accompanied me.
We had a lovely conversation. Lin Qian's eyes narrowed. "I don't believe you." "That's your right," I said. "But I suggest you be more careful in the future. You never know who might be watching." I walked away, leaving her standing in the hallway, her face pale with anger and confusion. The walk to my chambers was a blur. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. I had done it. I had survived, but this was only the beginning. I had faced Liu and won, but I had only exposed the tip of the iceberg. Lady Fong was still waiting in the shadows. Lin Qian was still plotting in the dark, and my father was still blind to everything. I walked to the window and looked out at the Reborn. The moon was full, casting silver light across the chrysanthemums. Somewhere out there, Liu was hiding in her corridors, terrified of what I would do next. Somewhere out there, Lady Fong was hatching her next scheme. And somewhere out there, Lin Qian was realizing that her perfect little world had cracks in it. I had survived the night. But there was so much more to do that I had to destroy Lady Fong. I had to expose Lin Qian. I had to make my father see the truth. And I had to make them all regret ever underestimating me. I closed my eyes and remembered the feeling of mud filling my mouth. The cold, the dark, the horror of realizing I was dying while the people I loved watched and did nothing. That memory would never leave me. It would fuel me for the rest of my life. I opened my eyes and looked at my reflection in the dark glass. The face that Sta read back was young, but the eyes were old. The eyes had seen death. The eyes had been shaped by betrayal. "I'm going to make you all pay," I whispered. "Every single one of you." I turned away from the window and began to plan. The wedding was in 2 months. 2 months to dismantle everything Lady Fong had built. 2 months to expose Lin Qian for what she truly was. 2 months to win back my father's love, and 2 months to make Liu regret ever holding that hairpin to my throat. The game had begun. And this time, I was the one holding the pieces. I slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the mud. I felt the cold water filling my lungs. I heard Liu's whisper and Lin Qian's distant laughter. So I lay in the dark and watched the moonlight crawl across the ceiling, planning. When dawn broke, I rose before my maid could arrive. I had been dead for 3 years, and in all that time, I had reneged patience. I had watched Lady Fong and Lin Qian from the grave, and I knew exactly how they operated. My stepmother was cautious. She never struck directly. She used others to do her dirty work. Lin Qian was more reckless, more arrogant. She believed her position was unassailable. They were both wrong. The first knock came at the hour of the dragon. I opened the door to find Shuer standing there, her face pale and pinched. She was clutching a small bundle to her chest. "Mistress," she whispered, darting a glance down the corridor. "Liu is in the kitchens. She's been asking questions about last night, about the wine and the tray." I nodded. That's exactly what I expected.
"Come in, Shuye."
"Tell me everything." She slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The head COK is frightened. He keeps saying the wine he read was only for the ceremonial toast, that he has no idea who sent the second cup. Of course he doesn't, I said. Lady Fong wouldn't be stupid enough to involve him directly. She would have used a middleman. Shue'er's hands trembled as she set the bundle down on my bed. Li Yu is telling people you've gone mad. She says you attacked her in the Reborn, that you threatened her. I laughed. And who would believe that I've been the quiet, obedient daughter for 18 years? One night of strangeness won't undo all my refill work. But mistress, Shue'er said, her voice dropping even lower, there are whispers. The servants saying you should have been married years ago. That you're a liability. They're saying Lady Fong has been planning to send you to the countryside, to a temple, to live out your days in quiet obscurity. The countryside. A temple. I remembered that plan. In my first life, it had been executed a month after my death. They had told my father I had run away, overwhelmed by shame at my failure to secure a match. He had believed them. He had never even looked for me. Let them talk, I said. Whispers are just whispers. It's what people do when they see that matters of importance being taken out of their hands. Shue'er looked at me, her eyes full of fear, and something else. Something that looked like hope. I don't understand what happened to you, mistress. Last night, when you came back from the Reborn, you were different. You were stronger. Before, you would have wept. You would have locked yourself in your room and refused to come out. But you faced Lady Fong. You faced Li Yu. You faced your sister. I reached out and took her hand. Something happened to me, Shue'er. Something I cannot fully explain. But I will tell you this. I am done being weak. I am done being forgotten. And I will never again allow anyone to treat me as less than I am. She squeezed my hand back. Then I will follow you, mistress. To the very end. I spent the morning in my chambers, sorting through my belongings. I had so little. A few pieces of jewelry that had once belonged to my mother. A small collection of books. Some letters, old and yellowed, that my mother had written to my father before she died. I had saved them all, writing them like precious treasure, but I didn't need treasure. I needed information that I dressed fully that morning. Not in the azure silk, but in a simple gown of pale green, elegant enough to be presentable, humble enough to be forgotten. I wanted to observe. I wanted to move through the household unnoticed. The main courtier was bustling when I arrived. Servants were hurrying back and forth, rhying trays of food and bolts of silk. The preparations for the wedding were in full swing. Lin Qian was in the center of it all, directing the chaos with the confidence of a queen. Elder sister, she called out when she spotted me. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were harrowed. I was wondering when you would emerge from your room. I smiled. I was not feeling well last night. The wine seemed to upset my stomach. Lin Qian's smile didn't waver, but I saw the flicker of rage in her eyes. She knew exactly which wine I was talking about. I'm sorry to hear that. Perhaps you should rest more. There's no need for you to exhaust yourself with wedding preparations. Oh, but I want to help, I said, stepping closer. Father asked me to. I wouldn't want to disappoint him. Her jaw tightened. Of course. Well, there's plenty to be done. You can supervise the inventory of the betrothal gifts. I'm sure someone as quiet and refill as you would be perfect for the task. I inclined my head. Thank you, Qianer. I'll do my best. I spent the next 2 hours in the storage room, cataloging chest after chest of silk and gold. It was tedious work, but I didn't mind. I needed time to think. I needed to piece together my plan. The inventory list was revealing. Most of the gifts were from the Crown Prince, lavish and generous. But there were also gifts from other noble families, gifts that had been given to my father over the years. And some of them I noticed were missing. Shue'er, I called out. Come here. She hurried over, her face flushed from running. Yes, mistress, look at this list, I said, pointing to several items. These 3 chests of silk, the jade statue, the golden hairpiece. They were given to my father 3 years ago by the Minister of Rights. They should be here, but they're not. Shui squinted at the list. Maybe they were moved. Lady Fong is always rearranging things. Perhaps, I said. Or perhaps my stepmother has been selling off my mother's dowry to fund her daughter's rise to power. Shui's eyes widened. Mistress, you can't accuse Lady Fong of that without proof. I smiled. I know. That's why I'm going to find proof. I left the storage room and made my way to Lady Fong's private chambers. Her quarters were on the eastern side of the compound, lavish and well-appointed. The servants who saw me approach bowed their heads, but I could feel their eyes on me, curious and wary. The door to Lady Fong's chambers was guarded by a young maid. She looked up as I approached, her face uncertain. First, miss, she said, bobbing a curtsy. The lady is not receiving visitors at this time. I'm not here to see her, I said smoothly. I'm here to retrieve some documents for the wedding preparations. Lady Fong told me she left them in her study. The maid hesitated. I wasn't told anything about documents. Perhaps she forgot to inform you, I said, my voice cool. I am the eldest daughter of this house. Are you questioning me? The maid's face paled. No, of course not. First Mississippi. Please go ahead. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. Lady Fong's study was neat and orderly, the monarchy of a woman who controlled every aspect of her life. I moved quickly, scanning the room. The desk was covered in papers. I opened the drawers one by one, my heart pounding in my chest. The third drawer was locked. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out a hairpin, not the jadeite one, but a thin, sturdy piece of metal I had found in my mother's old jewelry box. I worked the lock with practiced ease. In my years of death, I had learned many things. Picking locks was one of them. The drawer slid open. Inside was a stack of letters, bound together with red ribbon. I pulled them out and scanned the first one. My blood ran cold. The letters were from a merchant in the southern provinces. They detailed the sale of several items: a jade statuette, a set of golden hairpins, a chest of imported silk. The dates of the sales matched the missing items from the inventory that I read through the letters, my hands trembling. There was a pattern. Lady Fong had been selling off my mother's dowry for years, using the money to fund her own household expenses. Some of the proceeds had gone to Lin Qian's education, to her clothing, to her social standing. But that wasn't all. There were also payments to a man named Lu Wei, a commoner from the eastern provinces. The payments were large and regular. I folded the letters and tucked them into my sleeve. I would need to investigate Lu Wei. I would need to find out who he was and what hold he had on my stepmother. I was about to leave when I heard voices in the hallway. Lady Fong's voice, sharp and commanding. I don't see what she says. She is not to be allowed into my chambers. I looked around frantically. There was no way out except the door. Ida root behind a heavy curtain just as Lady Fong entered the room. She was followed by Li Yu. My maid's face was pale and drawn, and she kept her eyes fixed on the floor. Tell me exactly what happened in the Reborn, Lady Fong demanded. Leave nothing out.
Liu agitata.
I don't know how to explain it, my lady. First Miss was different. She knew about the wine. She knew I was going to. She knew. Lady Fong's voice was ice. How could she know? You told me you were C.A. Refull. I was C.A. Refull. I don't understand how she knew. She looked at me, and it was like she was looking straight through me, like she could see everything I had ever done. Lady Fong began to pace. This is a complication, a significant one. I've spent years cultivating the image of the obedient daughter. If she becomes difficult, it could ruin everything. I thought the plan was to send her to the temple, Liu said. After the wedding, when no one is paying attention. The plan has changed, Lady Fong snapped. She's too much of a liability now. If she knows about the wine, she knows too much. We need to deal with her quickly. I pressed myself against the wall, my heart pounding. Lady Fong was talking about killing me. Right here, right now, she was planning my death. But I wouldn't give her the satisfaction that I waited until they left the room. I waited until the footsteps faded into the distance. Then I stepped out from behind the curtain and slipped out of the chambers that I made my way to the kitchens. I needed to find Lu Wei. I needed to know what hold he had on my stepmother. The kitchens were bustling with activity. Servants were preparing the midday meal, their hands flying as they chopped and stirred. The head COK, a large man with a red face and suspicious eyes, looked up as I entered. "First, miss," he said, bowing. "What brings you here?" "Information," I said. "I need to know about a man named Lu Wei. He's from the eastern provinces." "Do you know him?" The head COK's face went pale. He glanced around the kitchen, then leaned in close. "Why would you ask about Lu Wei?" "First, miss, that's a dangerous name to speak in this household. Tell me what you know." He hesitated, then sighed. "Lu Wei is a merchant. He does business with the lady. I don't know the details. I just know he comes to the house once a month. They meet in the small pavilion by the lake. He brings letters. He takes letters away." "Do you know what they discuss?" The head COK shook his head. "I don't ask questions. First, Mississippi. I value my position in this household. I value my life." I reached into my sleeve and pulled out a small pouch of coins. I pressed it into his hand. "If anyone asks, you never saw me." He nodded, pocketing the coins. "I never saw you." I left the kitchens and walked to the small pavilion by the lake. It was a beautiful spot, surrounded by willows and flowering bushes. The perfect place for a secret meeting. I sat down on the stone bench and thought. Lu Wei was the key. If I could find out what hold he had on Lady Fong, I could use it against her. I could expose her corruption and destroy her reputation, but I needed more information. I needed to know when he would come next. I needed to know what was in those letters that I made my way back to the main courtyard, my mind racing. I was so deep in thought that I almost didn't see the man standing by the gate. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in the plain robes of a common soldier. But his face was familiar. General Wade, my betrothed. The man I had loved. The man who had married my sister after my disgrace. He was looking at me with an expression of shock and something else. Something that looked like regret. "Lin Xiao," he said, his voice low. "You look well." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. In my first life, I had loved General Wei with all my heart. I had believed he loved me too. But when Lady Fong had spread lies about my character, when she had told him I was unfaithful and unworthy, he had believed her. He had married Lin Qian without a second thought. And now he was standing in front of me, looking at me like I was a ghost. "General Wei," I said, my voice cold. "What brings you to the Lin household?" He shifted, uncomfortable. "I came to discuss the wedding arrangements. The Crown Prince has asked me to oversee the security for the ceremony." "Of course," I said. "How convenient." He frowned. "You sound angry." "I sound tired," I corrected. "It's been a long few days." "Lin Xiao, I want you to know that I never meant for things to turn out the way they did. I was told things about you. Things that I believed because I was foolish." "Don't," I said, holding up a hand. "Don't try to apologize now. It's too late for apologies." He stepped closer, his eyes searching my face. Is it truly too late?" I looked at him. At the man who had been my dream. At the man who had shattered me with a single whisper of doubt. I remembered the night of the betrothal ball. I remembered Lady Fong's poison words. I remembered General Wei's cold dismissal as he looked at me like I was something beneath him. I had loved him. I had given him my whole heart, and he had handed it back to me, shattered. "Yes," I said. "It's too late." I walked away, leaving him standing by the gate. I didn't look back. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I attended the evening meal with my family, smiling and nodding at appropriate moments while my mind churned with plans. I watched Lady Fong and Lin Qian, marking every glance, every whispered word. I watched my father, his oblivious good cheer, his casual dismissal of my presence, and I waited. When the meal was over, I excused myself and made my way to Liu's corridors. She was sitting at her small wooden table, her face pale, her hands shaking as she tried to mend a torn gown. She looked up as I entered, her eyes widening with fear. "Mistress. I didn't expect you." I sat down across from her. We need to talk, Liu. She swallowed hard. About what? About your future. About what happens now. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, her voice a whisper. What do you want from me? I want you to be my eyes and ears in this household, I said. I want you to tell me everything Lady Fong says, everything she does, everyone she meets. I want you to report to me every day. And if I refuse, I smiled. It was a cold smile, and I saw her flinch. If you refuse, I will go to my father and tell him about the poison. I will tell him that you were the one who administered it. I will show him the hairpin you used, the one with the jadeite butterfly, the one you tried to use on me in the Reborn. I could deny it, she said, but there was no conviction in her voice. You could try, I agreed. But who would believe you, a servant with a history of petty theft and a missing mistress's jewelry, or the eldest daughter of the Lin household? She was silent. I waited. Finally, she nodded. What do you need me to do? I leaned in close. I need you to find out about a man named Lu Wei. He's a merchant from the eastern provinces. He meets with Lady Fong in the small pavilion by the lake once a month. I need to know what they discuss. Li Yu's face paled further. Lu Wei. That's a dangerous name. All the more reason to find out more, I said. You have 3 days, Li Yu. If you fail me, I will destroy you. But if you help me, I will ensure you have a place in this household long after Lady Fong and Lin Qian are gone. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear and grudging respect. You've changed, mistress. I've grown, I said. There's a difference. I left her quarters and walked back to my chambers. The moon was rising again, full and bright. I stood at my window and looked out at the Reborn. The game was just beginning. 3 days. I had given Li Yu 3 days to find out about Lu Wei, and I intended to use every one of them. The morning after my conversation with Li Yu, I rose early and made my way to my father's study. He was already there, reviewing documents with his chief steward. He looked up as I entered, surprise flickering across his face.
Xue.
This is an unexpected pleasure. I bowed. Father, I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to speak with you about something important. He set down his brush and gestured for me to come closer. His steward bowed and slipped out of the room, closing the door behind him. What is it? My day. Are you still unwell from the other night? I'm perfectly well, father. But there's something I need to tell you. Something about Lady Fong. His expression shifted, a flicker of wariness in his eyes. What about your stepmother? I hesitated. I had to be careful. If I accused Lady Fong outright, my father would defend her. He had always defended her. I needed to plant seeds of doubt, not make accusations. I was in the storage room yesterday, cataloging the betrothal gifts, I said slowly. I noticed that several items were missing. Items that were part of my mother's dowry. My father's face went still. Your mother's dowry, are you sure? I checked the inventory, I said. 3 chests of silk, a jade statue, a golden hairpiece. They were listed in the dowry documents. They should be here. But they're not. My father was silent for a long moment. Then he said, his voice careful. Perhaps they were moved. Your stepmother often arranges things. I thought the same thing, I said. But I couldn't find them anywhere. And when I asked the servants, they told me Lady Fong had ordered those items to be sold. Sold, my father's voice sharpened. She wouldn't do that without consulting me. She may not have consulted you, I said softly. But the servants told me she did it to raise funds for the household. For Lin Qian's education. For her clothing and social standing. My father's face keened. He was a proud man, and the thought that his wife had been selling off his first wife's dowry without his knowledge would sting. I'll look into it, he said finally. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Xiaoer. I bowed again. I only want what's best for the family, father. I left the study feeling a small thrill of satisfaction. The seed was planted. Now I just had to wait for it to grow. The rest of the day was uneventful. I attended to my duties, kept my head down, and watched. I saw Lady Fong in the courtyard, her face serene and confident, completely unaware that her carefully constructed world was about to crack. I saw Lin Qian, her smile bright and her eyes hardy, as she directed the servants and accepted congratulations from visiting nobles, and I saw Liu, pale and trembling, as she went about her duties with her eyes downcast. She hadn't found anything yet, but I could wait. That evening, I was in my chambers reading when Shu'er burst in, her face flushed with excitement. "Mistress, Liu is here. She says she has information." I set down my book. "Send her in." Liu entered, her face even paler than usual. She was clutching a small piece of paper in her trembling hands. "I found out about Lu Wei," she said, her voice rely above a whisper. "He's not just a merchant.
He's a blackmailer.
He has evidence of Lady Feng's crimes. He's been extorting money from her for RS." My heart leaped. What kind of evidence? Liu swallowed hard. I don't know the exact details, but I overhear Lady Feng talking to him in the pavilion.
She was arguing about money.
She said she couldn't pay him anymore. He threatened to expose her. He said he would tell everyone about the poison. Poison? I leaned forward. What poison? Liu's face crumpled. "I don't know, mistress. I couldn't hear everything. But I think she poisoned your mother." The words hit me like a physical blow. I had always suspected, but to hear it confirmed, even indirectly, was a shock. "Where does Lu Wei live?" I asked, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "At an inn in the eastern quarter," Liu said. "The Red Lantern Inn. He's there every week on the day of the rooster." I nodded.
"Good.
That's very good, Liu. You've done well." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of fear and relief. "What are you going to do?" I smiled. "I'm going to pay Lu Wei a visit." The next morning, I dressed in the plain robes of a servant and slipped out of the compound. Shu'er had provided me with a disguise and directions to the Red Lantern Inn. I moved through the streets quickly, keeping my head down, avoiding the eyes of the passers-by. The eastern quarter was a chaotic maze of narrow streets and crowded markets. The Red Lantern Inn was a shabby building tucked away in a back alley. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The common room was dark and smelled of stale wine and smoke. A few men sat at tables, nursing cups of rice wine. The innkeeper, a thin man with a yellow face and suspicious eyes, looked up as I entered. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice rough. "I'm looking for Lu Wei," I said. "I was told he stays here." The innkeeper's eyes narrowed. "And who might be asking?" "A friend," I said. "Someone who wants to do business with him." The innkeeper studied me for a long moment. Then he jerked his head toward a rickety staircase. "Second floor, end of the hall. But he's not in the best mood. He lost a big fish yesterday." I climbed the stairs and made my way to the end of the hall. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The door opened a crack. A pair of dark, calculating eyes peered out at me. "Who are you?" Lu Wei's voice was rough and cautious. "Someone who wants to talk," I said. "About Lady Feng." The door opened wider. Lu Wei was a small man, thin and wiry, with a thin mustache and greedy eyes. He gestured for me to come in. I stepped inside and looked around. The room was small and sparsely furnished. A bed, a table, a chair. A pile of papers on the table caught my eye. "You're the eldest daughter," Lu Wei said, his voice flat. "What do you want?" "Information," I said. "I know you've been blackmailing Lady Feng. I know you have evidence of her crimes. I want to know what it is." Lu Wei laughed. It was an ugly sound, harsh and mocking. "And why would I share that with you? What do you have to offer me?" I reached into my sleeve and pulled out a pouch of coins. It was heavier than the one I had given the head COK. I had been saving for RS, writing every scrap of silver I could get my hands on. "This," I said. 50 silver taels. And protection. Lady Feng won't be able to touch you once I'm done with her." Lu Wei eyed the coins, his greedy fingers twitching. "You think you can take on Lady Feng? She's been running that household for RS. She's ruder than you think." "Let me worry about Lady Feng," I said. "Just tell me what you know." He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded and gestured to the papers on the table. Letters, he said. Between Lady Fong and a man named Zhang Hu. He was a poison master from the southern provinces. She hired him to make a slow-acting poison. She used it on your mother.
The world seemed to tilt around me.
I had suspected it, but hearing it confirmed was still devastating. Tell me more, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. Lu Wei shrugged. I don't know the details, but I know she paid Zhang Hu a lot of money. I have copies of the letters. I kept them in case I ever needed to use them. Give them to me, I said. He laughed again. Not for 50 silver taels. I want more. I want 1,000. And I want safe passage out of the city. You'll get your money, I said. But first I need proof. I need to see the letters. Lu Wei studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded and reached into a locked chest beside his bed. He pulled out a stack of papers and handed them to me. I read through them quickly. They were exactly as he had described. Letters between Lady Fong and a man named Zhang Hu. References to money and poison. A plan to kill my mother. I felt sick. I felt a rage, so deep it threatened to consume me. My mother had been murdered. Murdered by the woman who had taken her place. I'll take these, I said, tucking the letters into my sleeve. You'll have your money within the week. Lu Wei nodded. I'll be waiting. I left the inn and walked back through the crowded streets, my mind churning. I had the evidence I needed, but I couldn't confront Lady Fong directly.
Not yet.
I needed to plan. I needed to be C.A. Refull. When I returned to the compound, I found chaos waiting for me. Servants were rushing back and forth, their faces pale with fear. Lady Fong was in the main courtyard, her voice shrill and commanding. Find her. She can't have gone far. I stepped forward, my heart pounding. What happened? Lady Fong turned to me, her eyes blazing with fury. Where have you been? Your sister has disappeared. Disappeared. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. What do you mean? She's gone, Lady Fong said, her voice cracking with panic. She went to her chambers last night, and this morning she wasn't there. Her bed was untouched. Her belongings are still there. It's like she vanished into thin air. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. Lin Qian was missing. The timing was too convenient. Someone was making a move. Have you searched the grounds? I asked. Everywhere, Lady Fong said. She's not here. My father read at the door of the main hall, his face ashen. What is the meaning of this? Where is Qianer? We don't know, Lady Fong wailed. She's gone, my lord. Our daughter is gone. I watched my father's face crumple with worry. He loved Lin Qian. He loved her more than he had ever loved me. And now she was missing. I'll help see our search, I said. The more people we have looking, the faster we'll find her. My father nodded, grateful for my offer. I left the courtyard and made my way to Lin Qian's chambers. The room was exactly as Lady Fong had described, empty, untouched. The bed was made. The wardrobe was full. There was no sign of struggle. I looked around the room, my eyes scanning every corner. Something was wrong. Lin Qian was too calculating to simply disappear. She was too fond of her comforts. If she had left Volney Riley, she would have taken her jewels, her clothing, her most precious possessions. But she hadn't taken anything. I walked over to her writing desk and opened the drawers. Inside, I found a letter. It was addressed to me. I opened it with trembling hands. Our elder sister, if you're reading this, it means I have been taken. I don't know who did it or why, but I know you're involved. You've been acting strange ever since the engagement ceremony. You've been sneaking around, asking questions, making deals with servants. I don't know what you're planning, but I want you to know that if anything happens to me, my mother will destroy you. She has ways of making people disappear. She's done it before. I hope you can live with yourself when the dust settles. I hope you're happy with whatever you've done to your sister Lin Qian. I read the letter twice, my mind racing. Lin Qian was accusing me of her abduction. She was trying to frame me, but she had been missing before I left the compound. The timing didn't add up. Unless she had staged the whole thing herself. I thought back over the past few days. Lin Qian had been quiet, withdrawn. She had rarely spoken to anyone. She had been avoiding her mother. She had been avoiding me. And she had been spending a lot of time in the Reborn. I left the room and made my way to the Reborn. The chrysanthemums were still in bloom, their petals catching the morning light. I walked past the pavilion, past the koi pond, Tawa Rd the shallow ditch at the FARN, and I found her. She was sitting at the edge of the ditch, her rose gold gown stained with mud, her face streaked with TRS. She looked up as I approached, her eyes burning with hatred. "You found me," she said, her voice flat. "What are you doing here?" I asked, "What does it look like?" She gestured to the ditch. "I was going to kill myself. I was going to drown myself in the same ditch where you almost died." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Why?" she laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. "Because I can't do it anymore. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep being the perfect daughter, the perfect sister.
I'm tired. See you at.
I'm so tired." I sat down beside her. "What happened?" She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, her voice rely above a whisper. "I found out about my mother. I found out what she did to your mother. I found the letters." My heart stopped. "What letters?" "The letters to the poison master," she said. "The letters where she planned your mother's death. I found them in her study. She's been keeping them all these years. She didn't think anyone would ever find them." I felt a wave of shock wash over me. Lin Qian knew. She knew about her mother's crimes. And she was blaming herself. "I'm sorry," she said, TRS streaming down her face. "I'm sorry for everything. For the wine. For the Reborn. For all of it. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know." I looked at my sister. At the woman who had tried to kill me. At the woman who had destroyed my life. And for a moment, I felt something unexpected. "Pity." "I know," I said softly. "I know about the poison. I know about your mother. I know everything." She looked up at me, her eyes wide with shock. "You know, and you haven't done anything. You haven't exposed her." "I've been waiting," I said. "Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the perfect opportunity." Lin Qian shook her head. "You're stronger than I ever was. I spent my whole life trying to be perfect because I was afraid of her. I was afraid of turning out like her. And in the end, I became just like her anyway." "No," I said. "You didn't. You're different. You're here, at the edge of this ditch, ready to end it all because you feel guilty. That's not something your mother would ever do." She laughed again, a broken sound. "What do I do now? How do I live with myself?" I reached out and took her hand. "You help me. You help me expose her. You tell the truth about what she did. You make it right." She looked at me, her eyes red and swollen. "And then what happens to me after? I don't know," I said honestly. "But I'll help you find out." We sat there in the Reborn, two sisters who had spent years hating each other, finally understanding each other. It was a fragile peace, but it was a STA. I helped her to her feet and walked her back to the compound. The servants were still rushing around in a panic. Lady Fong was still shrieking about her missing daughter. My father saw us first. His face went from worried to relieved to confused in the span of a second. "Qianer,
Xue.
where have you been?" "We've been looking everywhere." Lin Qian looked at me. I nodded. She turned to my father, her face pale, her eyes steady. "I need to tell you something, father," she said. "Something about mother. Something she did a long time ago." Lady Fong's face went white. "Qianer, what are you saying? Come inside. You're upset. You're not thinking clear, RLY." "I'm thinking very clear, RLY," Lin Qian said. "I know about the poison. I know what you did to Xiaoer's mother." The words hung in the air like thunderclaps. My father's face went pale. The servants froze. Lady Fong's fully constructed world shattered in a single moment. "Lies," Lady Fong said, her voice trembling. "These are real lies." "I have proof," Lin Qian said. "I found the letters. They're in my chambers." My father looked at Lady Fong, looked at Lin Qian, looked at me. His face was a mask of shock and disbelief. Is this true? He asked, his voice a whisper. Lady Fong didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence was answer enough. My father's face crumpled with grief and rage. Get out of my sight, he said, his voice choked with emotion. Get out and never come back. Lady Fong opened her mouth to speak, but my father held up a hand. I said get out. Gua RDS, escort her from the compound. The Gua RDS stepped four-way RD, their faces grim. Lady Fong didn't resist. She walked slowly to the gate, her head held high, a queen stripped of her crown. I watched her go. Watched my father's grief. Watched my sister's shame. And I knew that this was only the beginning. Lady Fong was gone, but there were still enemies out there. The Crown Prince. The court. The dozens of people who had been involved in the plot against me. But for now, I had one. I looked at Lin Qian. She was crying again, silent tears streaming down her face. My father had retreated to his chambers, unable to face anyone. And I was left standing in the courtier RD, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I had done it. I had exposed Lady Fong. I had avenged my mother. I had survived. But the cost had been high. The cost had been everything. Lady Fong was gone, but the compound felt heavier than before. My father had locked himself in his study and refused to see anyone. Servants moved through the halls like ghosts, their whispers following me wherever I went. Did you hear first, Miss? Exposed the lady. They say the lady poisoned first, Mrs. Mother. Second, Miss helped. What kind of daughter betrays her own mother? I heard it all. I felt their eyes on me, a mixture of fear, and grudging respect. In one night, I had transformed from the forgotten daughter into something else. Something they didn't quite know how to handle. Lin Qian had retreated to her chambers. I had tried to speak with her, but she had refused to open the door. I understood. She had just done something unforgivable in the eyes of the world. She had betrayed her own mother. Even if it was the right thing to do, the weight of it was crushing her. I found Shuair in the kitchens, her face pale but determined. Mistress, what happens now? The Crown Prince will hear about this. He may call off the engagement.
I had thought about that.
The Crown Prince was marrying Lin Qian for political reasons. A scandal in her family could ruin everything. He might very well break the betrothal. That's a risk we'll have to take, I said. But I don't think he will. He needs the Lin family's support too much. And Lady Fong was never the source of our power. My father is. Shuair nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. The Crown Prince was a proud man. He might not take kindly to being associated with a family torn apart by scandal. That I needed to move quickly. I needed to consolidate my position before anyone could strike back. That I made my way to my father's study. The Gua RDS outside looked uncertain, but I pushed past them and opened the door. My father was sitting at his desk, his face RD, his eyes red. Sure, he said, his voice hoa, RSE. I don't wish to be disturbed. I know, father, but we need to talk. He looked at me, his eyes filled with grief and shame. I failed your mother, he said. I failed you. I let that woman into our home, and she destroyed everything. You didn't know, I said softly. You couldn't have known. I should have seen it, he insisted. I should have seen the signs. Your mother's illness. The way Fonger seemed to take over so quickly. The way you faded into the background.
You was blind? Xue.
I was willfully blind. I sat down across from him. What's done is done, father. What matters now is what we do next. He looked at me, his eyes sea-urching my face. What do you want to do? I want to restore our family's honor, I said. I want to make sure that Lady Fong can never hurt us again. And I want you to be proud of me. He reached across the desk and took my hand. I am proud of you. I've always been proud of you. I never showed it. I felt a lump form in my throat. All those years of neglect and dismissal. All the times I had stood in the shadows while Lin Qian basked in his attention. And now, finally, he was looking at me. Really looking at me. Then help me, father. Help me fix this. He nodded. Tell me what you need. I laid out my plan. The letters from Lu Wei. The evidence against Lady Fong. The need to inform the Crown Prince before he heard the news from someone else. The need to present a united front. My father listened, his face growing more determined with each word. By the time I finished, he was already reaching for his brush and paper. "I'll send word to the Crown Prince's household immediately," he said. "I'll explain the situation. I'll make it clear that the Lin family is still strong, still loyal, still worthy of his alliance." "That's good, father. But there's something else I need to tell you." He paused, his brush hovering over the paper. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. Lin Qian knew about the poison. She knew Freya RS. She helped Lady Fong hide it. She helped Lady Fong try to kill me. My father's face went pale. "Qianer, she was involved, she was," I said. "But she's changed. She helped me expose Lady Fong. She's trying to make it right. I don't think we should punish her for the sins of her mother." My father was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I'll speak with her. But Xiaoer, are you sure about this? After everything she's done," I thought about Lin Qian's face at the edge of the ditch. The TRS, the guilt, the brokenness. She had been willing to die for her sins. That had to count for something, I'm sure. I said. My father looked at me with something like awe. "You've become a remarkable woman, Xiaoer. Your mother would be proud." I left the study, my heart lighter than it had been in RS. It was a START. But it was something that the next few days were a whirlwind of activity. My father sent letters to the Crown Prince and to key members of the court. He made it clear that Lady Fong had acted alone, that the Lin family had been deceived by her wickedness. He painted us as victims, not perpetrators. And it worked. The Crown Prince's response was measured and gracious. He expressed his condolences for the deception and reaffirmed his commitment to the betrothal. He even sent a personal note to Lin Qian, expressing his confidence in her character. "The Crown Prince is a pragmatic man," my father said when he showed me the letter. "He understands that alliances are rebuilt on more than just personal relationships. He needs the Lin family and we need him. This scandal will pass." I wasn't so sure. The court was a snake pit, and snakes never forgot a weakness. But for now, I had to focus on securing our position. Lin Qian emerged from her chambers on the third day. She was pale, her eyes shadowed, but there was a new steadiness in her BA ring. "I'm ready," she said. "What do you need me to do?" I smiled. "I need you to be the future crown princess. I need you to smile and wave and pretend everything is fine."
"Can you do that?" She nodded.
"I can do that." And she did. At the next public event, she was perfect. Her smile was radiant, her manners impeccable. She charmed the visiting nobles and made my father proud. She was the picture of a future royal, confident and gracious. But I saw the cracks. I saw the way her hands trembled when she thought no one was watching. I saw the way her eyes drew root to the shadows, as if expecting Lady Fong to appear at any moment, and I saw the way she watched me. The way her eyes followed me across the room, full of guilt and gratitude and something that looked like hope. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she said one night, when we were alone in the Reborn. "I don't deserve any of this. You should hate me." I looked at her, at this woman who had been my enemy for so long. "I don't hate you, Lin Qian. I don't have the energy to hate you anymore." "Then what do you feel?" she asked. Indifference, disgust. I thought about it. "Pity," I said finally. "I feel pity. You've lived your whole life in your mother's shadow, doing her bidding, believing her lies. You never had a chance to be yourself. And that's a tragedy." Lin Qian's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know who I am anymore. I've been pretending for so long. I've forgotten what's real." "Then START," I said. "START being real. START being who you want to be. It's never too late to change." She reached out and took my hand. "Thank you, Xiaoer. Thank you for giving me a second chance." I squeezed her hand back. "Just don't waste it." The weeks passed. The wedding preparations continued, more subdued now, but still on track. My father threw himself into his work, burying his grief in duty. I took over the management of the household, overseeing the servants and the finances, and I kept a close eye on Liud. She had been quiet since the exposure of Lady Fong. She went about her duties with a mechanical efficiency, never meeting my eyes, never speaking unless spoken to. I knew she was afraid. She had been Lady Fong's accomplice, and she knew I hadn't forgotten. One evening, I summoned her to my chambers. She entered with her head bowed, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Mistress," she said, her voice rely above a whisper. "Liu," I said, "we need to talk about your future." She flinched. "Please, mistress. I know what I did was unforgivable. I know I don't deserve your mercy. But I beg you, don't send me away. I have nowhere else to go." I studied her for a long moment. She was genuinely terrified. And she should be. She had helped murder my mother. She had tried to murder me.
But she had also helped me.
She had given me information about Lu Wei. She had been my eyes and ears when I needed them most. "I'm not going to send you away," I said. "I'm going to give you a chance. A chance to prove yourself. A chance to make amends." She looked up, her eyes wide with disbelief. Really, I said. "But you need to understand something. If you ever betray me again, I will destroy you. Not just you, Liu, your family, your friends, everyone you've ever read about. Do you understand?" She nodded frantically. "I understand, mistress. I swear I will never betray you again." "Good," I said. "Now I have a job for you. I need you to go to Lu Wei. I need you to give him this." I handed her a pouch of coins. It was the 1,000 silver taels I had promised him. "Give him the money," I said, "and tell him that our business is concluded. If he ever tries to contact anyone in the Lin household again, I'll have him arrested and executed." Liu took the pouch, her hands trembling. "I'll do it, mistress. I'll make sure he understands." She left the room, and I watched her go. It was a gamble, trusting her again. But I believed in second chances. I had given Lin Qian one. I could give Liu one too. The night of the full moon, I received a visitor. General Wei arrived at the compound, his face grave, his uniform immaculate. "I need to speak with you," he said. "It's important." I led him to the Reborn, away from prying ears. He looked around at the chrysanthemums, his face troubled. "Lin Xiao," he said, "I need to tell you something. About your stepmother. About the night of the betrothal ball." My heart clenched. "What about it?" "It was a lie," he said. "Everything I was told about you. It was all a lie, manufactured by Lady Fong." I had known this. I had known it for years. But it said aloud, him admit it, still sent a shock through me. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice fully neutral. "She told me you had been unfaithful. That you had been relying on an affair with a servant. She gave me letters, forged letters, that seemed to prove it." He took a deep breath. I believed her. I was young and foolish, and I believed her. "And now," I asked, "why are you telling me this now?" "Because I need you to know," he said, his voice full of regret. "I need you to know that the man who walked away from you was a fool. I need you to know that I would give anything to take it back." I looked at him, at this man I had once loved with all my heart, and I felt nothing. The love was gone, replaced by a cold, hardy emptiness. "It doesn't matter," I said. "It's in the past. I've moved on."
He reached for my hand.
"Lin Xiao, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I want to earn it. I want to try." I pulled my hand away. "You're my sister. In a few weeks, you'll be my brother-in-law. Whatever we had is over." His face crumpled. I know. But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you the truth." "Thank you for the truth," I said. "Now go. You shouldn't be here." He left, his shoulders slumped, his face etched with defeat. I watched him go and felt nothing. It was strange, feeling so empty after so many years of pain, but the emptiness was good. The emptiness meant I had moved on. I was no longer the heartbroken girl who had wept for the love she had lost. I was someone new, someone stronger. I walked back to my chambers and found Shuer waiting for me. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with Allah, "Mistress, something terrible has happened." Lady Fong is back. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. What how? She came through the servants' gate, Shuair whispered. She's in the eastern courtier road. She says she wants to see you. I felt the rage building in my chest. Lady Fong had been banished. She had no right to be here. She had no right to demand anything that I ma urged to the eastern courtier road. Lady Fong was standing there, her face hage-rd, her eyes burning with hatred. Xiaoer, she said, her voice sharp. I'm surprised to see you. Surprised, I laughed. A cold, hearty sound. I'm surprised you have the nerve to show your face here. Don't be a fool, she said. I'm here to make you an offer. I studied her CA ruefully. She was desperate. That was the only explanation. The proud, cunning Lady Fong would never come crawling back unless she had no other choice. What kind of offer? I asked. I'm willing to leave the city, she said.
I'm willing to gisape a forever.
But I need money. I need enough to RT a new life. And why would I give you money? Because if you don't, she said, her eyes glinting, I'll go to the Crown Prince. I'll tell him that your father helped me poison your mother. I'll tell him that the entire Lin family is complicit in murder. I felt my blood run cold. It was a lie, of course. My father had known nothing, but the Crown Prince would believe it. He was already suspicious of us. One accusation from Lady Fong could destroy everything I had worked for. You're bluffing, I said. She smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Try me. I looked at her. This woman who had destroyed my mother, who had tried to destroy me, who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted, and I knew what I had to do. Fine, I said. I'll give you your money. But if I ever see you again, if I ever hear even a whisper of your voice in this city, I'll make sure you're thrown into prison for the rest of your life. Lady Fong smiled, triumphant. I knew you would see reason. I called for Li Yu and instructed her to fetch the money. She returned a few minutes later with a heavy pouch of silver. I handed it to Lady Fong, watching her greedy fingers close around it. Now get out, I said, and never come back. She left, her footsteps echoing in the empty courtier road. I watched her go, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. I had made a deal with the devil. But sometimes that was the only way to survive. The next morning, I found Lin Qian in the Garden. She was sitting on the same bench where I had found her weeks ago, her face pale, her eyes distant. She came to see me too, Lin Qian said, without looking at me. She begged me to help her. She said I was her daughter, and I owed her loyalty. What did you say? Lin Qian finally looked at me. Her eyes were dry, but there was a deep sadness in them. I told her she was no longer my mother. I told her I was finished with her and her schemes. I sat down beside her. That must have been hard. It was, she admitted, but it was also freeing. I've been CA-ing her guilt for so long, I forgot what it felt like to be my own person. Did you tell father? She shook her head.
No.
I don't think he needs to know. She's gone. She's not coming back. I nodded.
Good.
That's good. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Lin Qian said, Xiaoer, I know I've done terrible things. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I want to try. I want to be better. You have a lot of work to do, I said. But you can do it. She reached out and took my hand. Will you help me? I squeezed her hand back. I'll help you. The days blurred together after Lady Fong's final depart tour. I threw myself into the wedding preparations, not out of love for Lin Qian or duty to my father, but because I needed to stay busy. Idle hands gave my mind too much room to wander back to the ditch, back to the mud, back to the cold weight of Li Yu's hands on my shoulders. Lin Qian and I had reached an uneasy truce. She was trying. I could see it in the way she deferred to me in household matters, the way she sought my opinion on everything from flower arrangements to guest lists. She was no longer the arrogant, scheming sister who had tried to poison me. She was something smaller now. Something broken and trying to piece itself back together. You should be the one marrying the crown prince, she said one afternoon, as we went over the seating arrangements for the wedding feast. You were the one he was supposed to marry. I stole that from you. I looked up from the parchment. You didn't steal anything. Lady Fong stole it. And she did it because she wanted power, not because she loved you. Lin Qian flinched at the mention of her mother, but she didn't look away. I know that now. I've always known it, somewhere deep down. I just didn't want to admit it. Admitting it is the first step, I said. The second step is figuring out who you are without her. She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I don't know who that is. I spent so long being what she wanted me to be that I don't know what I want for myself. Then find out, I said. You have the rest of your life to figure it out. She smiled, a tentative, fragile thing. You're very wise, Xiaoer. I never noticed it before. I wasn't wise before, I said. I was just quiet. There's a difference. The conversation was interrupted by Xiaoer, who burst into the room with a look of contained panic on her face. Mistress, there's a messenger at the gate. He says he's from the Crown Prince's household. He says it's urgent. Lin Qian's face went pale.
Urgent.
What kind of urgent? I was already on my feet. Xiaoer, bring him to the main hall. Qianer, stay here. I'll handle this. I made my way to the main hall, my heart pounding. The Crown Prince had been quiet since the scandal with Lady Fong. I had assumed he was waiting to see how things played out before committing himself further. But an urgent message at this hour could only mean trouble. The messenger was a young man, Clea RLY, a servant from the palace, his face pale and sweating. He bowed as I entered, his hands trembling. First, Miss Lin, I apologize for the intrusion, but I come with grave news. What is it? I demanded. Speak quickly. He swallowed hard. The Crown Prince has been taken ill. His physician's fear are he may not recover. The palace is in chaos. I have been sent to inform your household and to ask that Lady Lin Qian attend him immediately. I felt the world tilt around me. The Crown Prince, ill, he had been in perfect health at the engagement ceremony. This was no natural illness. This was something else. Something sinister. What kind of illness? I asked. I do not know the details. First, miss, the messenger said. I was told only that it was sudden and severe. His Highness has been confined to his chambers, and no one is allowed to see him except the imperial physicians and the Empress Dowager. I nodded, my mind racing. The Crown Prince was dying. And if he died, the betrothal would be void. Lin Qian would be free, but she would also be ruined. A woman whose betrothed died before the wedding was considered cursed. No one would RRY her. She would be shunned forever. Wait here, I said to the messenger. I'll fetch my sister. I found Lin Qian pacing in the side room, her face white as paper. What is it? She asked. What's happened? The Crown Prince is ill, I said. He's asking for you. You need to go to the palace. She read at me, her eyes wide with shock. Ill? How ill? Very ill, I said. The messenger said, he may not recover. She swayed, and I caught her arm to steady her. Xiaoer, I can't go. I can't face him. What if he dies? What if I'm the one who has to watch him die? I held her shoulders and looked her in the eye. You have to go. You're his betrothed. If you don't go, it will be seen as a sign of disrespect. The court will turn against you. Against all of us. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. You're right. You're right.
I'm sorry.
I never expected this. Neither did I said. But we have to deal with it. I'll come with you. I won't let you face this alone. She looked at me, gratitude shining through her fear. Thank you, Xiaoer. I don't know what I'd do without you. The journey to the palace was quick but interminable. I sat in the riage across from Lin Qian, watching her twist her hands in her lap, her face pale in the dim light. I didn't speak. There was nothing to say. The palace was a maze of corridors and courtiers, all buzzing with the frantic energy of a household in crisis. Servants rushed past us with trays of medicine and linens. The air was thick with fia and the sha rp smell of medicinal herbs. We were led to a small antechamber outside the Crown Prince's bedchamber. The Empress Dowager was there, her face ashen, her eyes red from weeping. She looked up as we entered, her gaze sha rp and assessing. Lady Lin Qian, she said, Her voice hoa are. Thank you for coming. Lin Qian bowed low. Your Imperial Majesty, I came as soon as he rode. How is His Highness? The Empress Dowager shook her head. Not well. The physicians have tried everything, but nothing seems to help. They believe it may be poison.
Poison.
The word hung in the air like a death sentence. I felt the cold certainty settle in my gut. This was not a natural illness. This was someone's doing. Poison. Lin Qian's voice cracked. Who would poison the crown prince? That is what we are trying to find out, the Empress Dowager said, her eyes narrowing. We have questioned everyone in the palace, but no one has confessed. And there are no witnesses. I stepped forward. Your Imperial Majesty, may I ask a question? The Empress Dowager looked at me, her eyes assessing. You Lin Xiao, you not the eldest daughter? Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. Speak then. I took a breath. Was there anyone who had access to the Crown Prince's food or drink in the days before his illness? Anyone who might have had a reason to harm him? The Empress Dowager's eyes flickered with something dangerous. There were many people with access. But my son is not without enemies. There are those who would see him dead to gain power for themselves. I nodded slowly. I see. Your Imperial Majesty, with your permission, I would like to examine the Crown Prince's chambers. There may be something the physicians have missed. The Empress Dowager studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Very well, but BCA refill. If there is a poison, it may still be present. I entered the Crown Prince's bedchamber with a heavy HRT. The room was dark, the curtains drawn, the air thick with the smell of sickness and despair. The Crown Prince lay in the great bed, his face gaunt, his skin pale as parchment. He was breathing. I moved slowly around the room, my eyes scanning every surface. The windows were sealed, the doors guarded. Nothing seemed out of place. But I knew that poison had been used, and I knew that poison could be hidden in the most unlikely places. I walked to the small table beside the bed, where a cup of tea sat, untouched. I picked it up and sniffed it. Nothing unusual. I examined the teapot, the cups, the plates. Everything seemed ordinary, then I noticed something. A small, folded piece of paper, tucked under the edge of the the bed. I picked it up and unfolded it. It was a letter. It was addressed to the Crown Prince. My blood ran cold as I read the words. It was a declaration of love, written by Lady Fong. She had been corresponding with the Crown Prince behind everyone's backs. She had been trying to win his favor, to secure her position in the court. But there was more. The letter also mentioned a man named Zhang Hu, the poison master, the man she had hired to kill my mother. I felt the pieces click into place. Lady Fong had tried to poison the Crown Prince. She had done it to destroy the betrothal, to punish Lin Qian for betraying her. She had done it to destroy the Lin family once and for all. I folded the letter and tucked it into my sleeve. I left the bedchamber and made my way back to the antechamber, my mind reeling. The Empress Dowager looked up as I entered. Did you find anything? I reached into my sleeve and pulled out the letter. I found this. It's from Lady Fong. She was corresponding with the Crown Prince. And she mentions a man named Zhang Hu. He's a poison master. The Empress Dowager's face went pale. Lady Fong, the woman who was banished from the Lin household. The same, I said. She swore revenge. It seems she has taken it. The Empress Dowager took the letter, her hands shaking. We will find her. We will bring her to justice. And when we do, she will pay for what she has done. I nodded, but I knew it wouldn't be that simple. Lady Fong was resourceful. She had already fled. And even if we caught her, the Crown Prince was still dying. We needed an antidote. We needed to find Zhang Hu. Your Imperial Majesty, I said, I know where Zhang Hu is. He lives in the southern provinces. I can send a messenger to fetch him. If anyone can save the Crown Prince, he can. The Empress Dowager looked at me, her eyes filled with hope and desperation. Then go. Send word immediately. We cannot wait. I left the palace with Lin Qian, my mind already racing ahead. I had to find Zhang Hu. I had to save the crown prince. And I had to stop Lady Fong before she could do any more damage back at the compound. I summoned Liu to my chambers. She arrived within moments, her face pale, her eyes fearful. "Mistress, you sent for me." "Yes," I said. "I have a task for you. A dangerous one." She swallowed hard. "I'll do it, whatever it is." "I need you to go to the southern provinces," I said. "I need you to find Zhang Hu. He's a poison master. He's the one Lady Fong hired to kill my mother. And I need him to come here, to save the crown prince." Li Yu's face went white. "But mistress, if Lady Fong finds out I'm looking for him, she'll kill me. She'll have me killed for sure." "Then don't let her find out," I said. "Be careful. Be subtle. And if you succeed, I'll make sure you're right. You'll never have to worry about money or safety again." She nodded, her hands trembling. "I'll do it, mistress. I'll find him." "Good," I said.
Now go."
There's no time to waste. She left, and I watched her go, a strange feeling of unease settling in my chest. Sending Li Yu was a risk, but it was a risk I had to take. The crown prince's life was at stake, and with it, our family's future. The next few days were a blur of waiting and worrying. The crown prince's condition continued to deteriorate. The Empress Dowager sent daily messages, each one more desperate than the last. Lin Qian withdrew into herself. She spent her days in her chambers, refusing to see anyone. I tried to talk to her, but she wouldn't listen. "Leave me alone, Xiaoer," she said, her voice hollow. "I don't want to talk." "Qianer, you can't shut yourself away like this. We need to be strong. We need to be united." "Strong," she laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "I'm not strong. I've never been strong. I've always been the weak one, the one who followed orders, the one who did what she was told. And look where that got me. My mother is a murderer. My betrothed is dying. And I'm a fraud." I sat down beside her. "You're not a fraud. You're a survivor. You've been through hell, and you're still standing." She looked at me, her eyes red and swollen. "How do you do it, Xiaoer? How do you stay so strong?" I thought about the ditch, the mud, the cold. The moment I had opened my eyes and realized I had been given a second chance. "Because I've been through worse," I said. "And I've come out the other side. So have you." She reached out and took my hand. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Stay alive," I said. "That's all you have to do. Stay alive and keep fighting." 3 days later, Li Yu returned. She was exhausted, her clothes travel-stained, her face haggy-rode. But she was triumphant. "I found him," she said, collapsing into a chair. "He's in a small village outside the city. He agreed to come. He should be here by nightfall." I felt a surge of relief. "You've done well, Li Yu. I won't forget this." She nodded, too tired to speak. I sent her to her quarters and began to make preparations for Zhang Hu's arrival. The poison master arrived at midnight, escorted by 2 of my father's most trusted guardians. He was a small man, thin and wiry, with sharp eyes and long, bony fingers. He bowed as he entered, his gaze flickering around the room. "First Miss Lin," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "I understand you have need of my services." "The crown prince is dying," I said. "He's been poisoned. I need you to save him." Zhang Hu's eyes narrowed. "Poison? What kind of poison?" "I don't know the specifics," I said. "But I have reason to believe it was administered by Lady Fong. She used your services before. She hired you to kill my mother."
He laughed.
A cold, humorless sound. "Lady Fong is a fool. She's always been a fool. She doesn't understand the nature of poison. It's not a weapon to be used recklessly. It's a tool. A delicate, precise tool." "Can you save the crown prince?" I demanded. He studied me for a long moment. "It depends on the poison. If it's something I'm familiar with, I may be able to create an antidote. But I'll need to examine His Highness first." I nodded. "Come with me." We leave immediately. The journey to the palace was silent. Zhang Hu sat across from me, his eyes closed, his face expressionless. I watched him, trying to read his thoughts. He was a dangerous man. I knew that. But he was also my only hope. We arrived at the palace just as the sun was rising. The Empress Dowager was waiting for us, her face pale and anxious. "This is the Poison Master?" she asked, eyeing Zhang Hu with suspicion. "Yes, Your Imperial Majesty," I said. "He's the only one who can help." The Empress Dowager nodded, reluctantly. "Very well. But if he tries anything, I'll have him executed." Zhang Hu bowed low. "I understand, Your Imperial Majesty. I am here to help, not to harm." He was led to the Crown Prince's bedchamber, and I followed close behind. The room was darker than before, the air heavy with the smell of death. The Crown Prince lay motionless, his face ashen, his breath shallow. Zhang Hu moved to the bedside, his fingers hovering over the Crown Prince's forehead. He studied the patient for a long moment, his face unreadable. "It's a slow-acting poison," he said finally, "derived from a plant that grows in the southern mountains. It's rare and difficult to obtain. But I know it, and I know the antidote." I felt a wave of relief. "Can you save him?" he nodded. "I can, but it will take time. And I'll need certain ingredients." "Whatever you need," I said. "I'll get it for you." Zhang Hu wrote out a list of ingredients, and I dispatched servants to fetch them immediately. Then I sat in the antechamber and waited, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. Hours passed. The sun rose and set. I refused to leave, refused to eat, refused to sleep. I couldn't rest until I knew the Crown Prince was safe. Finally, as the moon rose over the palace, the door to the bedchamber opened. Zhang Hu emerged, his face pale, his eyes tired but triumphant. "It's done," he said. "The Crown Prince will recover. He'll be weak for a few weeks, but he'll make a full recovery." I felt the tears streaming down my face. "Thank you. Thank you." He nodded. "I don't do this for gratitude. I do it because I owe a debt. Lady Fong tried to use me as her weapon. Now I've made sure her weapon has been turned against her." I understood. He was a prideful man, and Lady Fong had treated him as a tool, not as an equal. He had taken his revenge in the only way he could. "You'll be right," I said. "I'll make sure of it." He shook his head. "I don't want money. I want my freedom. I want to be left alone."
Can you do that for me?
I nodded. "I can do that." He left, and I made my way back to the compound, my heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The Crown Prince was saved. The Lin family was saved, but Lady Fong was still out there. And as long as she was free, we would never be safe. I found Lin Qian in her chambers, her face pale, her eyes red. She looked up as I entered. "How is he?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "He's going to recover," I said. "Zhang Hu saved him." She let out a shaky breath. "Thank the gods." I was so red. I thought I'd lost everything.
Not everything, I said.
"You still have a future. You still have the Crown Prince." She looked at me, her eyes full of hope and uncertainty. "Do you think he still wants to marry me after everything that's happened?" "I think he needs you," I said. "And I think that's enough for now." She nodded, and I left her to her thoughts. The next day, the Crown Prince regained consciousness. The Empress Dowager sent word that he was asking for Lin Qian. She left immediately, her face flushed with hope and anxiety. I watched her go and felt a strange sense of peace. We had survived. We had weathered the storm. And we had come out the other side, stronger than before, but I knew the battle wasn't over. Lady Fong was still out there, plotting her revenge. And I had to find her. I had to stop her. I had to make sure she could never hurt anyone again. "Did I summon Li Yu to my chambers?" "I need you to find Lady Fong," I said. "I need you to track her down and bring her back." Li Yu's face paled. "But mistress, she's dangerous. She's already tried to kill you." "She'll kill me. Then be careful," I said. "And if you find her, don't try to confront her. Just send word. I'll handle the rest." Li Yu nodded, her hands trembling. "I'll do it, mistress. I'll find her." "Good," I said. "Now go. There's no time to waste." She left, and I stood at the window, watching the sun set over the compound. The game was far from over. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was winning. The weeks that followed the Crown Prince's recovery were quiet. Too quiet. I had Leah Rened to fear our silence, because silence meant someone was plotting. Lady Fong had vanished into the shadows, and I knew she wouldn't stay hidden forever. She was waiting, watching, biding her time. Liu had been gone for nearly a month when word finally came. A messenger arrived at the compound late one night, his clothes travel-stained, his face hage-road. He was from the southern provinces, sent by Liu herself. "First Miss Lin," he said, bowing low. "I come with a message from your maid. She has found Lady Fong. She is hiding in a small village near the border. She is living under a false name, but Liu is certain it is her." I felt the cold certainty settle in my chest. Where exactly? The messenger gave me the location. A village called Lotus Creek, tucked away in the mountains near the southern border. It was remote and isolated, the perfect place for a woman on the run. "Did Liu say anything else?" I asked. "Did she say what Lady Fong was doing?" She said Lady Fong was meeting with someone. A man with connections to the court. She believed Lady Fong was planning something. My blood ran cold. Of course. Lady Fong wasn't just hiding. She was scheming. She was building alliances, gathering allies, preparing to strike back. "Thank you," I said. "You may rest and refresh yourself. I'll send word when I have further instructions." The messenger left, and I sat alone in my chambers, my mind churning. I had to confront Lady Fong. I had to stop her before she could do any more damage. But I couldn't go alone. I needed help. I found my father in his study, reviewing documents by candlelight. He looked up as I entered, his face lined with worry. "Sure. It's late. Is something wrong?" "Father, I've found Lady Fong. She's hiding in a village near the southern border.
She's planning something.
I need to stop her." My father's face went pale. "You can't go after her alone. She's dangerous." "I won't go alone," I said. "I need your help. I need men, soldiers, someone who can protect me." He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I'll send word to the GA Risen. I'll have a squad of soldiers ready by morning. But sure, are you sure about this? She's your stepmother. She raised you." "She poisoned my mother," I said. "She tried to poison me. She tried to poison the crown prince. She has to be stopped." My father's eyes filled with grief, but he nodded. "I understand.
Go."
And BCA refill. I spent the rest of the night preparing. I packed a small bag with essentials, a change of clothes, some food, a knife. I wrote a letter to Lin Qian, explaining where I was going and why. I left it on my pillow, where she would find it in the morning. When dawn broke, I met the soldiers at the gate. There were 10 of them, tough, seasoned men who had seen battle and survived. They were led by a captain named Zhang Wei, a tall man with a scar across his cheek and steady eyes. "First Miss," he said, bowing. "We're ready to escort you." "Thank you, Captain Zhang. We ride at once." The journey to Lotus Creek took 3 days. We traveled through forests and over mountains, following the winding roads that led to the border. The soldiers were silent and watchful, their eyes scanning the trees for any sign of danger. On the 3rd day, we reached the village. It was a small, sleepy place, nestled in a valley surrounded by rice paddies. The villagers looked up as we rode through, their faces wary and suspicious. Liu was waiting for us at the village inn. She looked thinner, older, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion. "But she was alive, mistress," she said, bowing. "You came." "Of course I came," I said. "Where is she?" "She's staying in a house on the outskirts of the village," Liu said. "She doesn't go out much. She keeps to herself. But I've seen her meeting with a man. A stranger. He comes once a week, always at night." "Who is he?" Liu shook her head. "I don't know. But he's well dressed. Expensive clothes. He looks like he comes from the court." The court. My blood ran cold. Lady Fong had found allies in the palace. She was more dangerous than I had thought. "Take me to her," I said. "Now." We made our way through the village, the soldiers following at a distance. The house was small and unassuming, with a thatched roof and a wooden door. Smoke rose from the chimney, curling into the gray sky. I knocked on the door. There was silence. Then footsteps, slow and hesitant. "Who's there?" Lady Fong's voice, sharp and suspicious. "Open the door," I said. "It's me." The footsteps stopped. Then the door creaked open, revealing Lady Fong's face. She looked older, thinner, her eyes hollow and filled with hatred. "Show her," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "I should have known you would find me." I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was spa RSE and BA-RE, a STARK contrast to the lavish chambers she had once occupied. Lady Fong retreated to the center of the room, her back against the wall, her eyes rooting around for an escape. "Where is he?" I demanded. "The man from the court."
Who is he?
Lady Fong laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. "You think I'm going to tell you? You think I'm going to give you anything? I'm not here to negotiate," I said. "You tried to kill the crown prince. You tried to kill me. You killed my mother. Your crime's beyond forgiveness." Lady Fong's face twisted with rage. "Your mother was a fool. She stood in my way. She was weak and pathetic, and she deserved what she got." I felt the rage building in my chest, hot and fierce. But I forced myself to stay calm. I couldn't let her provoke me. "Who is he?" I repeated. Lady Fong smiled. A cold, cruel smile. "He's someone who wants the crown prince dead. Someone who wants the throne for himself. And he's already in the palace, waiting for the right moment to strike." My heart stopped. "Who?" "I'll never tell you," she said. "You'll never find out. And when he succeeds, when the crown prince is dead, you'll know. You'll know that you failed. That you couldn't stop it." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. "You're wrong," I said. "I will stop it. I'll stop him. And I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in a prison, rotting in the RK." Lady Fong laughed again. "You think you can SCA me? I've already lost everything. My daughter, my home, my status. There's nothing left for me to lose." "Then you have nothing left to live for," I said. "And I will make sure you regret every single thing you've ever done." I turned to the soldiers. "Take her." They stepped forward, their faces grim. Lady Fong didn't resist. She stood motionless as they bound her wrists and led her out of the house. I watched her go and felt nothing.
No satisfaction. No triumph.
Just a cold, empty numbness. Liu stepped up beside me. "Mistress, what now?" "Now we go back to the capital," I said. "We find the man she was meeting with. We stop him before he can do any more damage." The journey back to the capital was long and grueling. Lady Fong was held in a locked carriage, ride day and night. I sat in my own carriage, going over everything she had said. The man from the court. Someone who wanted the crown prince dead. Someone who had already infiltrated the palace. I went over the names in my head. The powerful nobles. The ambitious ministers. The rival princes. There were so many possibilities, so many people who would benefit from the crown prince's death. I had to find out who it was. And I had to stop them. When we arrived back at the compound, I found Lin Qian waiting for me. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. "I heard what happened," she said. "Are you all right?" I nodded.
"I've fine."
"But we have a problem." Lady Fong was meeting with someone from the court. Someone who wants the crown prince dead. I need to find out who it is. Lin Qian was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I think I know who it is." I read at her.
"What, how?" "Because I saw him," she said.
"Before the wedding. He came to the palace to pay his respects. I recognized him from somewhere, but I couldn't place him at the time. Now I know. He was one of Lady Fong's old allies. A man named Minister Su."
Minister Su.
I knew the name. He was a powerful minister, close to the emperor, ambitious and cunning. He would stop at nothing to gain more power. "Are you sure?" I asked. Lin Qian nodded. "I'm sure. I saw him meeting with my mother. They were arguing about something. She said he had to be patient. He said he was tired of waiting." I felt the pieces click into place.
Minister Su.
He had been Lady Fong's ally for years. He had helped her plot against my mother. And now he was plotting against the Crown Prince. We have to warn the Crown Prince, I said. We have to tell him about Minister Su. Lin Qian nodded. I'll go to the palace. I'll speak with him privately. No, I said. It's too dangerous. If Minister Su finds out, he'll try to stop you. I'll go. I'll speak with the Empress Dowager. Lin Qian looked at me, her eyes filled with gratitude and fear. BCA refill, Xiaoer. Please. I reached out and squeezed her hand. I will. I promise. I went to the palace that very night. The guardias recognized me and let me pass without question. I made my way to the Empress Dowager's chambers, my heart pounding in my chest. She was awake when I arrived, her face lined with worry. Lin Xiao, what is it? Is something wrong, Your Imperial Majesty? I said, bowing low. I have discovered who is behind the plot to kill the Crown Prince. It is Minister Su. The Empress Dowager's face went pale. Minister Su, are you certain? I am, I said. He has been working with Lady Fong for years. He wants the Crown Prince dead so he can seize power for himself. The Empress Dowager was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I will have him arrested immediately. If what you say is true, he will pay for his crimes. Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty, I said. But please, BCA refill. He is dangerous. He may have allies in the palace. The Empress Dowager nodded. I will take every precaution. You have done well, Lin Xiao. The Empire owes you a debt of gratitude. I bowed again. I did only what was right. I left the palace, my heart lighter than it had been in months. Minister Su would be arrested. The plot against the Crown Prince would be foiled. The Lin family would be safe, but I knew it wasn't over. There would always be enemies. There would always be people who wanted to destroy us. The only way to survive was to stay vigilant, to stay strong. The next morning, Minister Su was arrested. The palace was in chaos as the news spread. The Crown Prince was safe. The threat was neutralized. I visited him in the palace that afternoon. He was sitting up in bed, his face still pale, but his eyes were clear and sharp. Lin Xiao, he said, his voice weak but steady. I owe you my life. I bowed. I did what I could, Your Highness. He smiled. You did more than what you could. You saved the Empire.
You saved me.
I will never forget it. I did it for my family, I said. And for what is right. He nodded. You are a remarkable woman, Lin Xiao. The Empire is fortunate to have you. I left the palace, my heart full. The Crown Prince was safe. The Lin family was safe. And I had finally avenged my mother. When I returned to the compound, I found Lin Qian waiting for me. Her face was pale, but her eyes were bright with hope. Is it over? She asked. Is it truly over? I nodded. It's over. Minister Su has been arrested. The Crown Prince is safe. We can finally move on. Lin Qian reached out and took my hand. Thank you, Xiaoer. Thank you for everything. You did your part, I said. You helped me. You were brave. I'll never forget that. She smiled, a real smile, the first one I had seen on her face in months. Maybe we can be sisters now. Real sisters. I squeezed her hand. Maybe we can. The weeks that followed were peaceful. The wedding was rescheduled, and Lin Qian was married to the Crown Prince in a lavish ceremony. I stood beside her, watching her take her vows, feeling a strange sense of pride. My father wept during the ceremony. I held his hand and watched my sister ascend to her new life. And I thought about my mother. I thought about her smile, her laugh, the way she had loved me. I thought about the life she had wanted for me, the future she had dreamed of. I had avenged her. I had made sure Lady Fong would spend the rest of her life in prison. I had made sure Minister Su would never hurt anyone again. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. That night, I stood in the garden, looking up at the stars. The chrysanthemums were in full bloom, their petals soft and white in the moonlight. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to find Liu, her head bowed, her hands clasped in front of her. "Mistress," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I don't deserve to ask for anything, but I want to thank you. You gave me a second chance. You trusted me when you had no reason to." I looked at her, this woman who had tried to kill me, who had helped destroy my family, and I felt something unexpected. "Forgiveness. You helped me," I said. "You helped me find justice. That counts for something." She looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "What happens now?" I was silent for a long moment. Then I said, "We move on. We build new lives. We try to be better than we were before." She nodded. "I'll do my best, mistress. I promise." She left, and I stood alone in the garden, surrounded by the silent beauty of the night. I thought about everything I had been through. The betrayal,
The death.
the rebirth, the struggle. And I thought about the future. The unknown. The possibilities that I wasn't the same person I had been before I died. I was harder, stronger, more cynical. But I was also more hopeful.
I had survived.
I had thrived. And I would never let anyone take that away from me again. I looked up at the stars, and I whispered a prayer to my mother. "I did it, Mother. I avenged you. I made things right. I hope you're proud of me." The wind rustled through the chrysanthemums, and I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The past was behind me. The future was ahead. And for the first time in my life, I was ready for it.